I will give the Speak for Yourself crew credit because they said it, and I had been on this all year, but they encapsulated it perfectly. It was over when they lost to the Dolphins in a game they never lose, in a way they never lose, in a place they never lose to AFC East teams, at home, Week 17, bye on the line, and you can't stop Ryan Fitzpatrick from driving the field to steal the bye from you. And then it was officially ended by Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and the Tennessee Titans, and, by the way, former Patriot Logan Ryan with the pick 6 to end that football game. This is how it goes. And people can say, well, they just won a Super Bowl last year. How can you say it's over? Well, let's go to every dynasty in NFL history. The Packers won 3 straight Pro Football Championships, 1 pre-Super Bowl era in the first 2 Super Bowls. They didn't make another conference championship game until Brett Favre got there. The next one was the Dolphins. Dolphins made 3 straight Super Bowls, winning 2 in a row. They didn't make another conference championship game, not Super Bowl, conference championship game for nearly a decade. The Steelers won 4 out of 6 Super Bowls. Over the next 13 years, they made the conference championship once. The Niners won 5 in 14 years and were this close seemingly every single year. Then it was 15 years with 1 conference championship game. The Cowboys won 3 out of 4. Haven't been back to a conference championship game since. The Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls since that last Super Bowl. Have not been back to a conference championship game since. It is not, when it's over, it's over. And whether Brady's there or not, what they will not have next year is elite quarterback play. What they will not have next year is high-level quarterback play with or without Tom Brady. The Manning, Brady, Big Ben era of the AFC is done. The Lamar, Deshaun, Patrick Mahomes era is upon us. One of those 3 young men is going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl for the first time, and those 3 guys will trade it off over the next, I would imagine, 15 years, similar to how Manning, Brady, and Big Ben did over the previous 18. Those 3 guys have been to 16 of the last 18 Super Bowls in the AFC, pardon me. I don't know that Patty, Lamar, and Deshaun will have that level of success, but it's going to be something close to it. So with or without Tom Brady, to me, Greg, we saw the end of it at the final day of the regular season and officially the end of it this past Saturday.
So I have a kind of a backup question. What are we really defining as their dynasty? Is it just them competing for Super Bowls, being in Super Bowls? Because if you're saying that their dynasty is over because they won't be competitive and they won't make the playoffs, I completely disagree. I agree with what you're saying as far as elite quarterback play, as far as top, upper echelon quarterback play. No, that's not what they're going to have. But this team, when Tom Brady entered into the fold, was built on defense.
Yep.
This is how they won.
This season was built on defense. This season was built on defense.
They just faded in the end, which we hadn't seen in prior Patriots teams. So with that being said, I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over because when you've created a culture, and we all know this, in corporate, in sport, wherever you are, when you've created a culture, you have the mindset and the mentality, and those within that culture have the mindset and the mentality and the makeup of plug and play. And what Bill Belichick has created is that culture where it's not about one individual, which is why we see them have so much turnover on defensively, personnel, and we say they don't have this, they don't have that. Well, what they always had is a coach that understands what we're trying to do. I have a vision, I have a strategy, and I need guys that are going to be willing to execute it. And if he continues to get that, they will continue to be successful. Now, there are teams that are coming up. The Jets are going to be better. The Bills are already better. The Dolphins are going to be better. And these teams, and that's not mentioning anyone outside of their division. That's just their division.
Yep.
And so I don't think that they're going to be Super Bowl contenders, but I definitely think they're going to be viable. In their stint since Brady, they've only missed 3 consecutive Super Bowl appearances, 08, 09, and 10. Outside of that, that's their longest window of without going to a Super Bowl.
So the question, Nick, was, is the Patriots dynasty over even if Tom Brady stays? If Tom Brady stays and their defense was able to play like they did this year, except finish out the season and stay that competitive and that good and that elite, Can't that dynasty maintain?
Yeah, but that defense was a figment of our imagination. The defense, yes, if the defense plays the way they did the first 8 weeks, which was on pace to be the single greatest defense in NFL history. And the reason that people did not want to believe it could be the single greatest defense in NFL history is because they don't have the horses. How can you be the best defense in NFL history when you do not have a single elite pass rusher? When you do not have a single just amazing run-stuffing nose tackle, or a great safety, or one linebacker that terrifies you. They had one player on their defense that belongs in the discussion of, oh, that guy's one of the best in the league. Stephon Gilmore.
Sure.
Exactly right. All the other, we were talking about the 0-2 Bucks the other day because John Lynch is a Hall of Fame finalist. And with respect, John Lynch, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. And the reason I said that was, but he's a Hall of Fame finalist. He was the 5th best player on that defense. That's the type of defense we're talking about. You have Warren Sapp, you have Derek Brooks, you have Simeon Rice, you have Rondé Barber, and then you have 4th or 5th in line, a guy who might make the Hall of Fame at safety in John Lynch, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
The 2015 Broncos, you had Aqib Talib and Chris Harris, both at their peak. You had I think DeMarcus Ware was on the team, but I know Von Miller was on that team, who was the single best defensive player in football at the time. You had all this weaponry. And so this idea of if the Patriots get back to where the defense and special teams outscore the opposing team's offense, then sure, then plug in it's Jared Stidham, and you can make a Super Bowl run. But that defense, it's not that it coincidentally faded down the stretch. They started playing real teams. And once they started playing real teams, they went from this statistically, historically great unit to a very, very good defense. In the playoff game, they allowed 13 points. The pick six wasn't on them. They're a very good defense. Very good is not good enough to make a Super Bowl if your offense is below average. And with Tom Brady at quarterback and the skill position guys around him, that's a below average offense in 2019. God only knows what it looks like in 2020.
You make a great point, and I want to add to this. When he's talking about not having players, the reason why it's so important is because when you have players, you automatically know that their level of play is going to be sustained. Like, Stephon Gilmore is arguably the only one on that defense
that it's not going to peter out.
That his level of play never changed. Kyle Van Noy, he's a really good player, but you don't expect him to be a game breaker. Stephon Gilmore, players like you're mentioning, Warren Sapp and all these guys, game breakers, game wreckers, consistently from week 1 to week 17 throughout the course of the playoffs, and that's where they can be a little sketchy. But I think, again, with Belichick, he's always done it. He's not gonna detour off of the path that he's always been on. This is who they are. He will plug and play.
All he needs is 6 Hall of Fame players on defense, and maybe they'll have a dynasty again. Coming up, will Mike McCarthy make Dak Prescott an elite quarterback? That's the discussion. Grueling, drawn-out process of finding Dallas's next head coach. After just one day, the search is over. The Cowboys have agreed to a 5-year deal with Mike McCarthy, who spent 13 seasons as Green Bay's head coach, made the playoffs 9 times, including a win in Super Bowl 45. Dallas certainly needs a strong voice in that locker room after woefully underachieving this year. Greg Jennings, you played for McCarthy for 7 years. We're going to get to you in a second. Your take on what you think all this means. But, Nick, I'll start with you. You think the Cowboys got this one right?
I think the Cowboys got this right-ish on a scale